Hello, everyone, and a very happy new year to all of you. Well, we're going to start the year out right by creating some fun cards. I have Spellbinders January card kit on my desk here today, and this one is called Truly, Madly, Deeply. And it's all about Valentine's Day and then some. So let's take a quick peek at what's inside this card kit, and then we'll get into our 10 cards. Let me get this all situated. So we'll start with the contents page. This tells you everything that's inside the kit, as well as some card examples and how to use the dies from the kit. And there are your 3 card examples or inspiration. So in every kit, you always get 10 card bases and 10 envelopes. I love this. It makes card crafting go so much faster. Also, in every kit, you get your adhesives, your double-sided adhesive and your foam squares. So let's dig right into the dies. I love their dies. And this one I would consider a stash builder because you get these cute tags that you can use for any occasion. It cuts out the center if you want to cut out the center of the larger tag. And then it comes with 2 sentiments and some floral images, and a little decorative piece you can put at the top of your tag. I like to store mine on my Spellbinders magnet diamond, just so I don't lose anything, and then I can just set it there on my desk. It's so handy. The stamp set is really pretty. Look at that beautiful floral heart. And then the large sentiment stamps are just lovely, and then lots of little builder stamps. The sequins are a pretty iridescent white, and you always get some die-cut shapes. I'll open these up in just a minute here. You get more tags. These are dimensional, and they all have different sentiments on them. These are some chipboard stickers, and it's a double-sided pack. These are really fun to use on your cards, as well as some dimensional glitter stickers. Another thing that I love from their card kits is their pattern paper. You always get a lot. You get 2 of each, and it's a thin weight layering pattern paper. I'll flip through this book so you can see the designs this month. And a lot of them have to do with Valentine's Day. A lot of them are floral. And they're always just clever and cute patterns. I love that music piece right here. And you can use these for really any occasion. A lot of them have some gold foiling on them too. So let's look at the cardstock. You get a double-sided gold, a white, black, a dark pink, and a light pink. And then you get a yellow, a red, green, and a light blue. So let's take a peek at the die-cut shapes. You get 2 of each shape, and I'm going to speed the video up just because it would take us all day to get through these. There are so many. But you get a lot of sentiments. You always get some florals, and just a lot of different shapes. I used to store these or put these back in the card kit box, but I like to be able to see all of them because I miss out on them if I don't see all of them clearly. So I put a big poster board on my floor and spread them out. Okay, so let's get into card number 1. I'm going to make a wreath card using some dies from Spellbinders. This set is called Elegant Twist Circles. And you can cut out the inside of it as well, but I'm not going to use that die to cut it out. I'll take this over to my die cut machine and cut it out. And we'll just get rid of that ring piece. I'll pop out the little inner bits. Look how pretty that is. This is going to be the focal point of my card, but I am going to use a die cut shape in the center of this. I'm using the double-sided adhesive to adhere this. Their double-sided adhesive is really fabulous, and they give you a lot. I have so many rolls of this stuff. Mostly I use my dot liner to attach my different papers, just for ease of editing. It's a lot easier to edit it when I can just quickly use my dot liner. So let's press that in place. And then I also use the double-sided adhesive on the pattern paper. I like to peel off the backing with my all-in-one tool. I'm going to use this cute pattern that says XOXO. And it's going to be slightly smaller than my white card base. I pulled out 2 tag die cut shapes. I liked this one with the different colors on it. So I'll put one at the top. And we'll go right to the edge of the card base. And then the other one we'll put at the bottom, and this will just kind of serve to elongate it. So I'm just going to glue it down flat with some liquid glue. And this is the Barely Art precision glue that I'm using from Spellbinders. So we're getting into Valentine card season here, and I just love creating Valentine's Day cards. For the sentiment, I'm going to use a chipboard sticker, and I always like to add a little bit of additional glue because they're not very tacky and I think it would fall off. So make sure to add some glue behind it. And this one says, "You make the ordinary moments extraordinary." I popped up this wreath with some foam pieces, and I'll just press it in place. I'm going to use some gems around the sentiment, and these are the pretty pink ones from Spellbinders. I love all of the new colors that they have. And then that's all I'm going to do with this card. This is just a fun, quick warm-up card to get the creative juices flowing. I always decorate the insides of my cards just for an added touch of fun. So here's a close-up look at the first card. And then here is a peek at the inside. I always try to use leftover pattern paper. For the next card, I'm going to do a bit of stamping. So this is the stamp set, of course. I'm going to pull out the stamps that say love and always. And I'm using some VersaFine Onyx Black ink to do this because it's a thick, dark ink that's nice because you don't have to use your stamp positioner to get a nice impression. I love this technique of kind of creating your own pattern paper, but it looks really cute when you have a cute pattern paper already in the background. So I'm stamping the biggest stamp first, the always, and I'm twisting my acrylic block so it goes in all directions. And then I'm going to stamp out the love. I love the font of these stamps. These stamps would look cute stamped out with a colored ink as well, but I wanted the black ink. It just makes a nice bold impression. And I am going to mat it with a piece of black cardstock. So I'll stamp the love stamp one more time here. I'm just twisting it upside down. And then I'll use some of these small heart stamps. These are so cute. There's 3 different hearts in this set. I'll stamp the largest one first. I'm kind of rocking it on this teeny acrylic block just to make sure it gets a good impression. I misstamp one of them here and I have to carefully stamp over it again. Now for the small heart. And then there's a heart that is open. Just an outline of the heart. I love it when sets come with lots of little additional stamps like this, or supporting stamps. But it would also look cute with some of the smaller sentiments stamped out. Sorry, my head got in the way there. And here it is all ready to go. I did let it air dry for a few minutes because the ink takes a little bit longer to dry. I'll put down my black cardstock. And now for the pattern paper. I'm going to pull out some of the die cut shapes to add on top of this card. I have a tag, an envelope, a heart, and another sentiment from the die cut shapes that says always. But I'm going to use some black licorice twine on this tag and tie a little bow up at the top. I really am quite fond of this black licorice twine because it's pretty thin and it's a nice touch to bring out the black sentiments of the card. So I'm just going to glue the envelope down next and then the heart popping out of it. I love creating collage cards like this. The sentiment always is just going to go at the bottom of the tag, and it does kind of get lost in the pattern paper. To fix this, I could have used a piece of vellum and cut it out with a circle die or a smaller rectangle die, just so you see it better, but I don't mind it blending into the background. I popped this up with some foam pieces, and I'll trim off the ends of the string, and here is a close-up look at the finished card. And also a peek at the inside. I stamped the love sentiment on that die-cut shape there. On to card number 3. I'm using my favorite pattern paper. It's this beautiful, bold, floral piece. But first I'm putting down the light pink cardstock. And the pattern paper is a little bit smaller than the pink cardstock, so it has a cute border around it. That paper is just lovely. I'd like a whole pad of that. And it has gold detailing on it. I used the dies to cut out the sentiment "Feel Today with Love" as well as the tag die in some gold cardstock. And I'm just going to glue the sentiment down flat. I'll use some pink ribbon to tie my tag up at the top. I'm just trying to snug that into place without ripping my tag. And I will cut the ribbon a little bit shorter. I'm going to pop up this die cut shape that matches the pattern paper, and it kind of blends into the background, but it's just a hint or a touch of dimension. It's really cute. Let's pop up the tag again with some foam pieces. And I'll just place this over the die cut shape. I'll have to peel this foam piece off. It's just getting in the way of the die cut shape. I'm just trying to figure out where to place it. And the sentiment I cut out with more pattern paper, it has just a subtle white dots on it. It's so pretty. I'm going to use some clear stickles for the centers of all of the flowers on the pattern paper as well as the die cut shape. I'm just putting little dots in the centers just for a pretty accent. And here it is all done. This was a pretty simple card to put together, but I love that pattern paper. It just carries off the whole card. And here's a look at the inside. Okay, talking about very simple cards, that's what the next one is going to be all about. I'm using a heart die from a past set, and I cut out a stencil for myself, just using the heart. I'm going to tape it down to this musical notes pattern paper and use some candied apple distress ink. I'll use a foam blending tool just to add some color to this heart. And it's nice because you can still see the musical notes through this red ink. It's not completely opaque. So I'll get that good and dark. And then I have just a pretty heart on the center of this pattern paper. I'll cut this panel down using a Spellbinders hem stitch die. And then I'm going to mat this with some red cardstock. So we'll glue this down flat. And the red cardstock is going to be even a little bit smaller than the white card base. The sentiment I chose says "Love You." And I'm going to pop this up with some foam, with one foam strip, just right down the center. Let me just trim off the end so you can't see the foam behind the sentiment. And this will go right in the middle of the heart. This pattern paper is so pretty because it's really, you just let that do all the work for you. So let's add some red gems and put this on our white card base. And that's all I'm going to do to the outside. I am going to use another die cut shape heart on the center, and I did add more candied apple over that. For the next card, I'm going to use this gorgeous large floral heart, and I'm stamping it onto a piece of watercolor paper. This one is from Stonehenge, and it is a hot press. It's a nice smooth watercolor paper. I'll emboss this with some clear embossing powder this time, but let's add some anti-static powder first. And then I do stamp this up several times just to get a nice dark impression. But I'll only show one stamping. And I do stamp out the little flower 2 more times. So let's pull this out while it's still wet and pour over some clear embossing powder. I'm going to let my heat tool warm up for a minute before I bring it to the paper, and then I can just quickly melt this. Embossing it like this does help the painting go faster because it creates little raised lines around each section of your image, and it won't bleed into the other flowers, so you don't have to wait for one flower to dry before you start on another one. I'm going to wet down the whole image, and this will help the ink spread a little bit easier. I'm going to paint this with some pinks and teals and yellows. I want it to match the pattern paper I'm going to be using. So I have a little tester sheet here, scrap paper, and I really like the pink color of this. So I'm going to start in on my painting. And mostly I'm just dropping the ink in and letting it spread. Most of these flowers are going to be pink. And I will come in with another layer once these are dry, just to darken it up a little bit. These dry back kind of pale. And now for the teal flowers, there aren't many of these. And then I'm going to go in with the yellow flowers. The paints I'm using are from Arteza, and it's their set of 36 paints. It provides a pretty range of colors, so I like this little set. Now I'm coming back in with some darker pinkish red tones. Also, the brush that I'm using is a black velvet brush, and it's a size 4, so it's pretty small to get into all of these tiny nooks and crannies. Now I'm going to go in with some greens and color in all of the leaves. So this just adds a pretty touch to this painting. This heart stamp would look really pretty stamped out in a colored ink as well. And I don't think you'd even have to color it in if you didn't want to. It's such a pretty stamp. So let's color in the small flowers now, and I'm just going to color them in with the same reddish pinks. And then once the paint has dried, I'm going to fussy cut out these images. But this was really fun to paint, and if you've never tried using watercolors on your greeting cards, I highly recommend it. It's just relaxing and so much fun to do. I'm adding a little more color to the flowers that dried back kind of pale. And then I'll just set this aside to dry. So I'm going to do another fun technique on this card. I wanted to use a lot of the beautiful pattern paper. So one way to do this is to use it in strips. And I added dot liner to a piece of white cardstock. I'm just going to adhere all of these strips down at an angle on this panel. And this way you get to see lots of the different patterns. There are 2 sizes of these pattern strips. And then I'll use my scissors just to trim them off. but I like the soft pinks and the teals of these papers. So let's clean up the edges and then start putting our card together. I'll trim this down so it's a little bit smaller than my card base. I'll also be matting this with a piece of the dark pink cardstock. I cut out the banner with some white cardstock, and I'm stamping the sentiment that says, "You fill my heart with," and then on the inside of the card I'll have the word love. I have two banners here. I just wanted to elongate them a little bit. And then you won't see the seam because I'm going to put my heart right there. And I will pop it up with some foam pieces. So let's take off the backing and put this kind of on the side of the card. I'll add the 3 flowers down at the bottom right. The first one I'll pop up with foam pieces, and then the other 2 I'll just glue down flat. I used the same clear stickles to add centers to all of these flowers, and then a few pink gems around the heart. Here is a close-up look at the finished card. I love all of those pattern papers. It's so much fun to see all of those. And then the inside I used a sentiment from the die cut shapes. My next card is going to be another collage card, and I'm using this die cut shape frame. I popped it up with some foam strips, and I'm adding some of the gold cardstock behind it. I love this pattern paper with the pretty pink hearts. I'll attach that onto my card base. And then there's a big tag in the die cut shapes. I'll put that flat down next. Now let's start collaging. I have a lot of die cut shapes that I'm going to be using on this card. I'll glue my frame down flat. And I'm going to angle this. Next, let's use another tag from the sticker pack. And this one, I'm going to pull off the little white string and use some baker's twine from my stash. And it's gold and white baker's twine. I'll trim off the ends, and then I'm just going to put this on top of the first tag. Next, I'm going to use some foam squares as well as some liquid glue to attach the sentiment. I want to make sure I leave enough room for the sentiment. And this one says, "Life is a journey, best travel together." And then I wanted to use this cute car die cut shape. This is going to be a wedding card or an engagement card. And I'm using some salvaged patina around the edges of this cute car. I'll pop this up in the middle of my window frame. These little shapes look like fireworks to me, so I wanted to add the fireworks around this panel. I'll add 2 of them. And then another heart. And then I'll even use some gold hearts from this pack of stickers. So there's a lot going on with this card. Here it is all done. It's always nice to have wedding cards on hand. And then on the inside, I used 2 more of the fireworks die cut shapes. The little tag says "Always and Forever." On my next card, I'm going to make a very simple one. I wanted to use this beautiful pattern paper again. And half of it's going to be this floral piece, and the other half is going to be this diamond. Teal diamond piece. It's really pretty. I'll leave a pink border around these pattern papers. And then to hide that seam, I cut out a strip of gold cardstock. And I'll just put that down with some dot liner. And then I can flip it over and trim off the overhang. The sentiment was really pretty. It says, "I would find you in any lifetime." And I popped that up with foam pieces. And I'm just going to put that right in the center of the gold strip. So this is going to be a landscape top folding card. I'll add my dot liner to the card base. And then I can just attach my card panel. I'm going to add some more of the puffy stickers. So I'll add a larger one up at the top. Just center it right on the strip of gold. And then a smaller one underneath. I also pulled out some of the white iridescent sequins and put 3 of these around this panel. And here it is all done. On the inside, I used another die cut shape as well as some strips of pattern paper. So my next card starts out with another piece of the pattern paper. This is a really subtle leaf pattern. It's very pale greens. I'm using the largest of the tag dies to cut out a window in this piece of white cardstock. I'll just tack this down with some tape and run it through my die cut machine. So this white panel is slightly smaller than my card base, and I'm going to pop it up with some foam strips. I'll peel off the release paper, and I'm just going to do my best to center this on my card base. I have to kind of look down over it to get it centered. And now there's a fun dimensional window on this panel. So I'm going to stamp out the sentiment that says, "Love you." I'll use the stamp positioner just because this is a kind of a dimensional window, and I didn't want to mess up the stamping with an acrylic block. I'll stamp it up a few times, and I allow this to dry. To add more color to this card, I'm going to ink blend on some salvaged patina. I'm trying to blend it out as softly as I can, just using a small makeup brush. But I liked this touch of color around the sentiment. It just needed something, it was too pale. I'll use a black and white twine bow above the sentiment, and I'm going to put it inside the window so it's easier to mail out, so it's not so dimensional. And I'll just press it in place with a glue dot. And then I felt like it needed just something else, so I'm adding a few hearts around the tag window. This would look really pretty with pink ink around the window. I think then it would look more Valentine-y. I will add some pink gems inside the window just around the sentiment. And here is the finished card. And a peek at the inside. This doesn't leave a lot of room for writing a message, but sometimes you just want to write just a short, quick note. So on to card number 9. I'm going to use the tag dies again for this one. And I'm putting down a piece of Silver Fox cardstock. This wasn't in the kit, but this is from Spellbinders. It's one of their beautiful cardstock essentials. I'm going to use the diamond pattern paper again and mat it with a piece of the blue cardstock. This actually is also a Spellbinders cardstock essential called Waterfall, and I'll center this on my gray cardstock. I cut out a tag with more of the Silver Fox cardstock, and I will line it with a piece of pink cardstock. I went ahead and die cut a bunch of the floral images and put those together. I'll glue down this pretty gold decorative piece right under the hole for the tag. And then this is another die cut shape. It just says "Love You." I'm using some more black and white twine to put these together. So let's pull the ends through. I'm not going to tie a bow this time. And then I am going to add dimension to this tag by popping it up with some foam pieces. I like layering these tags. They look really cute. I'll glue down the die cut shapes that I put together. These are really dainty and pretty. And I just cut them out with white cardstock and some green cardstock for the stems. The centers of the flowers are the gold foiled cardstock. So let's put this down kind of at an angle on this card. I'm going to use a little bit of liquid glue to glue down the ends of my twine, just so they stay in place where I want them to be. And I'm just putting down just a little line of glue. I'll add some teal gemstones around this panel, and here it is all finished. And here is a peek at the inside. You have so many die cut shapes, it's a pity not to use them on the insides of your cards. And now for card number 10. This one was really fun to do. I'm using some Peridot cardstock on the card base, and I chose 2 pieces of pattern paper. I'm going to cut these at an angle. I just pulled out my paper trimmer to do this. I'm just trying to figure out where to make this cut, because one of the corner pieces I'm going to flip over so it looks like the paper is folded back. I'll show you what I mean here in just a sec. So this is a little bit larger than my card base, so I do have to trim it down. But I'm just going to tape it like so. I have to do a little bit of fiddling with this. The triangle that looks like it's folded back, I'm going to pop up with a couple of layers of additional pattern paper and cardstock, just to give it a little touch of dimension. And then I can just use my dot liner to attach this. I use some Spellbinders circle dies to cut out a circle. And then this is a die cut shape, and it says, "You will forever be my always." And I'm just centering that on my gold circle. I'll pop this up with some foam, and I'm going to put it right over the fold. This is a really simple card, but I love how this one turned out. I tied a twine bow. It's pink and white. I'll attach this just over the sentiment with another micro dot. So let's pull out the micro dots. I peel it off with my all-in-one tool. And then I can just press the bow into it. And I'll trim the ends down just a little bit. I added some more of the white iridescent sequins, and here's a close-up look at the finished card. Thanks for spending some of your time with me today, and I hope you were inspired and had fun watching this video. I'll have all of the links listed in the description box below, as well as over at my blog. There you can also find close-up photos of all of these cards. Well, again, Happy New Year! I hope 2022 is a happy, healthy, crafty year for all of you. Bye!